I would have thought that if the Spanish Football Federation had any sense, they would be urging Rubiales to stand down immediately. And I think that's probably what they'll do, because for them there's something bigger at stake, and that is they wish to be a host of the 2030 World Cup along with Portugal and perhaps Morocco. And having this hang over their heads is not going to do anyone any good. It's just a disgrace, frankly.
Well, until now, they've backed him. What choices do they actually have in front of them? This is quite unprecedented.
FIFA has already moved to stand him down or to discipline him, and is taking out disciplinary action against him or looking at it. And this, the Spanish Football Federation, they would be really silly to ignore what if FIFA's convinced that they need to step in and do something, then the Spanish Federation would be really silly to do that, really silly to ignore that. Not to mention world opinion, not to mention that 81 of their top women players are refusing to play. There's just so much going on. It's unbelievable that one man can be so tone deaf, so arrogant, so pompous and so disgraceful.
Can you tell us a bit more about Luis Rubiales and why he's stood so firm?
Oh, who can possibly answer why he stood so firm? But look, he's been in power as president of the Spanish Federation for about 5 years. For around 6 years before that, he was on the board. The Spanish Football Federation, to put it as politely as possible, they haven't always been the most progressive on these things. And there is a view from the women players that they haven't really supported women's football as much as they could or as much as they ought. And in fact, this particular Spanish women's team, even though they've had great success at not just the recent World Cup, but at under 20 level, they have raised concerns before about the way the national team is managed. And yet Rubiales has just absolutely refused to consider anything different than what he has in place.
And the Spanish government can't really intervene and remove him from his post either. What has it said? What can it do?
Well, what the government is doing is trying to get some sort of action through their own sport body mechanisms. But, absolutely, they can't step in and say you must get rid of him, because it's a federation of the sport itself, and so the sport has to manage itself. And this is where, the board of the Spanish Federation, if they simply would be absolutely astounding if they ignored all the public opinion about this, about what FIFA's done, what their own clubs are saying and what their players are doing. So they should be taking action tonight. And if they don't, it's an indictment on them and what their values are.
Even national coach Jorge Vilda has done a turnaround. At first he supported Rubiales, but now he's not. How's he being viewed at the moment?
Well, it's the coach who the national team raised a concern about last year, not in terms of any behaviour that was unacceptable, but just in terms of how he managed the team. And Rubiales has backed the coach all the way, has backed Vilda. Vilda's his intervention just in the past 24 hours saying it wasn't appropriate is an interesting move, because they go back a long way. There's a lot of fear or favour within the Spanish Federation, and nepotism would be too strong a word, but it's certainly close to being something like that.
How big a moment is this for Spain? How does it all tie in with broader issues that many in the country are concerned about right now?
I think it's very important for Spain from everything that we've read about what's going on there. That's been an issue that Spanish women have been raising publicly and elsewhere for some time. So I think, in that respect, it's the right time. And it's fantastic that so many women players have put up their hand and said, no, we're not going to take this anymore. And the sport cannot afford to not take notice of 81 women, and there will probably be more join that group, who happen also, let's not forget, they're the world champions, and they're the world champions not only at senior women's level but at under 20 women's level as well. So they're a big football nation with a proud heritage, and they're saying this has got to change. The world needs to take notice and the world needs to back them.
Well, Jenny Hermoso has been widely supported all around the world as well, and she said the kiss was not consensual and felt vulnerable and a victim of aggression. How difficult must this all be for her at this time?
Well, I think when anyone says anything against someone in power and someone with absolute authority, which he has in the Spanish Federation or has had, that's very, very difficult. But she would be absolutely buoyed by the fact that she is being backed by so many people in her team, so many people in Spanish football and so many people in women's football and football more broadly around the world. I mean, let's be clear, most decent men would, or all decent men would see this as totally unacceptable as well.
Bonita, great to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.